guys. I hope you're all doing well and recovering from the roller coaster of the past few days. This week's Parsha has one of the most incredible and shocking dialogues I think there might be in the entire Torah. Hashem says that Sodom and Amorah, they're just terrible, awful. Before Hashem even has a chance to give the details, it seems like Abraham just jumps in and he says, could it be that the judge of the whole earth will not do justice? And then he says what I think might be the most shocking verse in the Torah. He says, Chalila lecha me'asot kadavar hazeh. I didn't even bother looking up the translation on that because no translation can quite capture the Israeli style chutzpah in that sentence. Chalila would loosely translate as, oh, don't you dare, right? I'll be honest, Jeremy and I study the Torah portion with our 11-year-old and our 14-year-old every night, and these were not easy verses to read. I'm like, hey kids, look, there's a bird. Quickly turn the pages, Jeremy, turn the pages. Because how many of you guys would like it if your kids said, oh, you wouldn't dare, take away whatever privilege? I bet a lot of you guys would be correcting that pretty quickly. But the kids might have a good leg to stand on reading Abraham speaking to Hashem. So Abraham and Hashem have this strange kind of back and forth negotiation over how many righteous people would there need to be in Sodom to justify saving Sodom. And why is this kind of a strange dialogue? Because in Hebrew we have this term, full gas on neutral. Like if your car's in neutral and you're pressing the gas as hard as you can, it's sort of a waste because you're not going anywhere. That's what this argument kind of reminds me of. Because Avram's having this massive argument with Hashem, but there's something he doesn't know. And we know, right? We the readers know, because right before in chapter 18, verse 22, it says, right before Hashem starts talking to Avram about Sodom, it says that the angels turned to go to Sodom. And right after the dialogue, we know that why were the angels in Sodom? They were there to save Lot and his family, or in the words of Abraham, they'd already been sent with a clear task to remove the righteous people out of the wicked people of Sodom, because Hashem doesn't want to kill the righteous among the wicked. So in essence, what Abraham doesn't know is that Hashem has already taken care of all of the moral concerns that Abraham is bringing up, right? So now let's say this was happening between you and your kid, right? Your kid's arguing, you'd be like, oh, Mom, how could you do that? It's so unfair. And you've already thought of these problems and taken care of them ahead of time, I would say to my kid, who do you think you are? You think you know better than me? I'm the mom of this family. Of course I've taken care of this before you even thought of it. But Hashem doesn't even mention to Abraham like, hey, Abraham, I've already thought of that. Why don't you just leave the divine justice to me? I'll take it from here. I already sent the angels. Instead, it seems like he's kind of playing ball with Abraham. He's participating in this dialogue about how many righteous people should there be in Sodom to save Sodom. And at the beginning of the story, even before this dialogue, Hashem actually says, I want to reveal my plan to Abraham. And he says, because I'm going to turn him into a great nation. And why have I chosen to make him a great nation? It doesn't say that Hashem chose Abraham because of his theology, that he knows the one true God. It doesn't say Hashem chose Abraham because he's very obedient. He listened to the Lech Lecha. It says, I'm choosing Abraham because he will teach his children tzedakah mishpat, to do the right and the just. That's why Hashem loves Abraham. And so Abraham is just demonstrating that, that characteristic that Hashem loves. It's his sensitivity to righteousness, his sensitivity to justice. And if there's anything that we see in the whole Torah, it's that Hashem wants to be in a dialogue about those things with us. He wants to have a conversation. It's not a coincidence that Hashem calls the Jewish people Israel, right? Yisrael, you have fought. You have fought with Hashem and man, and you've prevailed. So it's really cool. Hashem kind of encourages and likes this type of relationship. But then what's the weirdest part of this Torah portion? A little bit later, Hashem commands Avram to do something that is clearly against all of the morality that he's learned. Go sacrifice your child, right? Wouldn't you expect Avram to put up an argument here, be like, hey, what about the fact that he's an innocent boy? What about the fact that he's righteous, right? It seems so out of character that he doesn't even raise an argument. For years, this kind of felt strange to me. But in this year reading the Parsha, I noticed something that really resonated for me in my life. I realized that in order to understand why Abraham doesn't say anything in the sacrifice, when he's ordered to sacrifice Isaac, you need to look at all the stories that precede it. So first we have this Sodom conversation. Abraham is arguing that it's so unfair, so unjust, just to later find out that Hashem had already had a plan before he thought of any of this. He had already sent angels. Then Yitzchak is born, and Ishmael is having a bad influence on him. And Sarah says, we got to get rid of him. And Avram doesn't feel good. He gets upset, right? He's like not feeling comfortable with this. Hashem says, listen to Sarah. But he doesn't just say, listen to Sarah, I'm the boss, period, end of story. Hashem says, listen, I know this looks bad to you, but I actually have a plan for Ishmael. He's going to be a father of many nations. I'm going to take care of him, right? So now once Abraham understands that Ishmael is going to be watched over by Hashem, he feels okay with it. And then we get the sacrifice story. Then he's commanded to sacrifice. Now the first verse of chapter 22 is so amazing because it says, and after these things, Hashem tested Abraham, meaning Hashem shows that he is like trying to, Hashem is trying to show us that this sacrifice story is like a direct consequence of those stories before. When you're in school and you're learning, and then finally there's the big test, right? So it's like all of these stories building up are training. It's like basic training for Abraham. He's been through this training camp. Do you know the drill? Are you ready for the battlefield? So this last test, interestingly, it seems kind of like a combination of the previous test. There's the element of sacrificing a son, like he had been there, done that. I had to get rid of Ishmael. But then it also has the stone element of killing an innocent person, because Ishmael didn't seem like the nicest guy. Yitzchak is just like an innocent, righteous boy. So it takes the hardest part of both of these stories and puts it into one. And the test is like, Abram, have you built up your trust in me to know that I have a plan? And, there's this part where they're walking and Yitzchak says, Father, where is the lamb? And he says, Hashem will see to the lamb, right? My son. And I always read that as just trying to, sort of calm him down. But when reading it in this light, I realized that Avram is saying, no, really, Hashem has a plan. How do I know? Because Hashem has taught me all of these lessons up until now. That really resonated for me and maybe for you as well. I know that sometimes in life, I have these moments where everything seems like a disaster and then just works out. And in those moments, I'm like, oh, Hashem had a plan. But then the next time comes around and I'm like, oh no, everything's going to be terrible. It's like I forgot that I already know that Hashem is going to take care of me. And, definitely now, I imagine that you guys feel the same, that we're in pretty turbulent times in the world. And I think this Parsha is teaching us that we can draw on our past experiences, draw on all those times that we've all had where you felt like there was just a part of the picture that you hadn't seen, but Hashem had seen, and Hashem made everything work out all right. Avram is showing us that in the hardest test, because Hashem always tests us in our hardest thing, in our hardest test, we can draw on those past experiences, get strength from them, and be ready to face whatever our latest test is, knowing that Hashem has a plan. He's thought of the things that we're worried about, and He knows parts of the puzzle that we don't know, and He's going to make it work out in exactly the way that He knows it needs to work out. So that's my thought for this week. Bye, guys. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the week, and hope you guys enjoyed.
My name is Tehila Gimpel, and I live here in the mountains of Judea. And in these unprecedented times, I wanted to offer you a gift from the land of Israel. We've been here at the cutting edge of the Jewish return to the land of Israel. We've come to the place where King David first assembled his men and where he wrote most of the book of Psalms. We are quite literally transforming this desert mountain area into a Garden of Eden-like oasis. Watching prophecy manifest into reality, we felt called to reach out to the nations, to teach them lessons from the Bible in the original Hebrew, unlocking insights and understandings that you can only get if you read the text in its original language and from a Judean perspective. The prophet Zechariah spoke of a time that 10 men from all the nations will grab hold of the corner of a garment of a Judean man and say, "Take us with you, for we have heard that God is with you." Perhaps this is the time that the righteous among the nations will now make a sharp U-turn and reconnect to Israel, reconnect to Judea, reconnect to the Hebrew roots of the spiritual realities of this world. This is an invitation to join us at our next live gathering with hundreds of families from over 30 countries around the world. And if you register now, we'll give you a free gift from Israel, the first 5 sessions that unlock the secrets of the Hebrew Bible and how to live as a believer in these times. I hope to see you at the Land of Israel Fellowship. Shalom.